Episode 42 of the Thousand Year Blood War was phenomenal. Coming off the theatrical run of the first 3 episodes, the beginning scene with Tatsuki and Orihime, this is what I was waiting for. I am an Orihime fan. I know in the anime that she can be viewed as controversial, however, she is one of the better written females out of Shonen Jump. The original anime was pure character assassination. Orihime is very intelligent and reflective, and we see that here in this scene with Tatsuki. They're on a field trip, I believe, and Orihime is thinking about Ichigo while looking at flowers. What I love is that these are 2 different women who have different relationships with Ichigo. One is more like a cherished friend, the other is a lover. That's why Tatsuki saying the orange flower represents Ichigo, it just makes more sense in comparison to Orihime, who thought the red flower looked like Ichigo. That red flower is called the Flame Lily, and Tatsuki is looking at the surface, the orange hair. Orihime was looking at his heart. I think episode 3 is going to make a ton of new Orihime fans. She deserves her spot next to Ichigo as they head into their final battle against Urahara. The rest of episode 2 is centered around what a lot of us have been waiting for, Urahara versus Askin. Askin is now in his Volstagg form, which is called Hasashin, God's Poison Taster, which I hope I pronounced that correctly. The situation is Yoriichi is down and Urahara appears to be pressed. Now, Urahara is not Askin's preferred matchup in any way, shape, or form. However, that doesn't save us from some good old-fashioned villain monologuing from Askin. He breaks down his abilities and how he survived Yoriichi's attack. Her Ryatsu in the Thunder Beast form changes 48 times a second, so if he gets hit, he takes all 48 versions at once. If he can just manage to survive for 1 second, then he will be able to create an immunity to her attack. Quite frankly, from Askin's perspective, the fight is done at this point in time, which he goes into his famous wits end speech to Urahara at this point. Now, please, let me know in your opinion, but I feel like Askin during his speech, he confessed that he's a bit of a coward, that he doesn't have the power that people thinks that he has. Askin in his speech hints at his own insecurities. He tells Urahara how he hates people who speak in absolutes because they appear unsure of themselves, but that's what he's doing right here. He's speaking in absolutes, and that's because, in my opinion, this fight has to be done for Askin right here. Because with the information that they had going into this war, anything else that Urahara is going to do outside of what he already expected is going to throw everything off for Askin. So in his mind, this fight is wrapped up because all of Urahara's planning, steps 1 through 10, they should be crushed. This should be the expected outcome. He should be on top. He goes on his whole tirade describing the ideal man, being in control, which is everything Urahara is because he calls him out. Askin doesn't really seem like this ideal man loyal type, which I think is accurate. Askin doesn't want to be really any different than the man that he already is. That's why his ability, Death Dealing, is about creating immunities for the challenges the world throws at him versus improving himself to overcome the challenge. He responds back to Urahara saying that he doesn't really appear to be the loyal type by saying that he has twice the loyalty of a Pomeranian. But the final part of his monologue is really just him confessing that that actually might be true. If he was stronger than Yhwach, would he really be interested in Yhwach's world? Askin, I believe, thinks that His Majesty is going to come out on the other side and win. So he's asking Urahara about seeing Yhwach's vision, but in reality, he doesn't have a choice. If he had the power or if he didn't have the power, if he couldn't overcome Yhwach, he has to align himself where he sees that he's going to have his best odds of survival. Askin cares about living, which that weakness shows in his combat. The Death Dealing is an amazing hacks ability. However, Askin is not a warrior. Urahara is. Don't let the Hagen Clogs fool you. He stood up in Gift Ball with full intentions of fighting in Shikai. If Askin didn't resort to using Gift Ring to remove Urahara's eyes, I think Urahara was going to go for the win without ever using his
Bankai.
Sheltering the future savior of the world from the rain, teaching him how to never fear his blade. In Bleach, it is just Urahara, a simple Shinigami, but in Buddhism, he is the Bodhisattva of infinite compassion, who hears the cries of the world. Now, I love this scene. In theaters, Kubo goes into more details about how he wanted it to come off creepy. He wanted Urahara's Bankai to have more of a spooky feel to it. And seeing this surgical dowel crawling through the veil, towering over Urahara, stitching his face back together, he hit the vibes perfectly. I loved everything that was going on. And I'm gonna keep it real. This was not in my mind. I was not thinking anything near this for Urahara's Bankai when I was reading the manga, and this worked out way better than what was in my head. I love Kubo's vision. I love the direction that he went in. I'm going to be rewatching this fight plenty of times. The name Kanen Barakai Benihime Artame is homage to the real-life Bodhisattva Kanen, if you didn't pick that up in my transition. As we know, Urahara is a mentor to Ichigo. He also invented the Hogiku, which is based on the real-life Sentamani jewel that Kanen holds in Buddhism. This is another deeply symbolic Bankai connecting to Buddhism from Kubo. I have a video covering some of the finer details about Urahara's Bankai, but now that we have the episode out with added details, I think it's time for a new video dedicated to breaking down his Bankai in full, so be on the lookout for that. Now, the fun thing about Urahara popping his Bankai is that the fight's over. Askin can't kill Urahara in his current state with the level of toxicity that Gift Ball is giving out. Not to mention, he's going against a war asset that they didn't really prepare for his Bankai, and that's because he never really used it with this group, as he states. So they don't have any information for something that they've never experienced before. But even still, there's nothing Askin can do. Deconstruction is just broken. Urahara is a frontline fighter that chooses to work as a utility fighter. He could easily be the alpha dog on the battlefield, but he generates success by how he prepares and plans, and he puts people in the right position. The rest of the fight between Askin and Urahara, it just feels like this game of master versus the imposter, because the way Urahara is just guiding him around on these stitches, and no matter what Askin does, no matter what immunities he creates, it's like Urahara's Bankai, just like with his eyes, it just deconstructs and repairs him. Whatever Askin can do, Urahara can do it more efficiently, faster, and it just seems like it's a continued thing as long as you're within the domain of his Bankai. It's pure cinema. It's heart-stopping action, and these are the moments Urahara thrives in the best. While we're lost in the spectacle of his Bankai, Askin's monologuing, and immunities and poisons, Urahara sets up the battlefield for victory. Urahara is a researcher, but he was still the warden of the Nest of Maggots. He took on Aizen. Askin was right about everything related to Urahara's character. He is bothersome, and I personally would not want to fight against him either. I just don't believe Askin understood what Urahara was willing to do for victory. Like he explains, this is combat. This is battle. Take 1,000 precautions because only one needs to be successful. Even in the finale of his life, Askin couldn't get the last laugh over Urahara. There's no immunity for what Urahara does. As he dies, he increases the deadliness of Gift Ball, and we see Urahara fading with his Bankai over him, but he's already prepared for that too. You cannot stop what was determined to not be stopped. I love their fight. This was some of the best action, philosophy, and dialogue that Bleach has to offer. I really hope you guys enjoyed it as well too. Getting past Urahara's fight, I believe, is a huge milestone for the Final Core. We are here. We are at the end. However, this is just my speculation, but I know that the theatrical release that I saw in the movies was supposed to be episodes 1 through 3, but it feels like because we're missing so much of what was going on with the miracle that maybe that's more episode 4, or possibly it is cut into episode 3 now that we're done with Urahara, Yoruichi, and Askin. The rest of this episode does kind of set that up, at least, where we see them go into Ichigo versus Yhwach finally. And I know there was a lot of skepticism around the trailer with the coloring for this scene. It looks great. Everything's fine. Nothing to worry about. The Ryatsu colors are on point. Ichigo and Orihime, Yhwach, all their individual characteristics blend in perfectly fine. We get a little bit of action, but in reality, this scene, they did a really great job just building up the levels of disrespect from Yhwach towards Ichigo, setting up the famous Horn of Salvation moment, which I do believe that's coming in episode 3. And then the last huge reveal is that now that Yhwach, and I've brought this up before, has this expanded level of Ryatsu, well, Drugum tells Uryu that you guys probably thought the plan was for Ichigo to go to the most important fight, which was against Yhwach, because he wouldn't have access to the Almighty. Well, joke's on you. Not only does Yhwach have the Almighty, Drugum has the Almighty now as well too. And this fight just increased not only in tenacity, but just the abilities of what Drugum can do. I am excited to see all of the new things that have been added, because even in the theatrical release, we didn't see everything that was going to be added to this fight. So I'm excited. I hope you guys are. Once again, I'll be back next Saturday reviewing episode 3. Make sure you guys subscribe, turn on alerts. It is the first of the month. That means that my schedule has started. So if you guys didn't hear from my original post, expect videos every day except for Tuesday and Wednesday. Those are my editing days. Today is day 1. You guys have a beautiful day. Peace out.